Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Nepal is on the boil. Protesters have set fire to government buildings, police stations, and the houses of politicians in Kathmandu as unrest continued for a second day on Tuesday as well, even after the country's leader has resigned and social media restrictions were reversed. Now, what has happened since morning? The departure of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli with no clear replacement left the country's leadership uncertain. Several other top officials have also stepped down. A day earlier, the authorities opened fire into the crowds of young demonstrators, leaving at least 19 people dead in some of the most widespread social unrest in the South Asian country in recent years. Now, demonstrations in Nepal against corruption and a social media ban, which the government reversed, have put young people front and center, borrowing the name Gen Z. Now, that generation includes teenagers and people in their early to mid 20s, has been important in other recent political protests in Asia. In many of them, young demonstrators have expressed frustration at corruption, social inequality, unemployment, and a lack of economic opportunity. So, the house of former Prime Minister Jhalanatha Khanal was also set on fire on Tuesday while his wife Ravi Lakshmi Chitrakar was inside. She was severely burned. His wife was taken to the army after she was critically burned. She's still receiving treatment at the hospital. That's what the latest protests show. Then people stormed into the Supreme Court. People stormed into the residence of the present Prime Minister. And what we are also told, as of now, the news just breaking in, that some of the media organization offices have also been burned. That is what the latest situation is. So it's really a big political crisis unfolding in Nepal. Now, is it a conspiracy? That's question number one. Has this situation been simmering for quite some time and now it has reached a peak situation? What is India going to do? What is China going to do? And how is America viewing this situation? All this and much more on a discussion today. Joining me this evening is international affairs expert and professor from the Jindal University, Mohsin Raza Khan. Thank you so much, Mohsin, for joining. And I'm also hoping to be joined by Professor Aftab Kamal Pasha, who's an international affairs expert and diplomat. Professor Pasha, thank you so much for joining. And I'll begin with Professor Pasha. How do you really view this situation, Professor Pasha, as what we are seeing in Nepal? What we are currently hearing is that one of the media organizations, their office buildings has got burnt. Protesters have stormed into the Supreme Court, into the parliament, into the residences of the Prime Minister. Now that KP Sharma Oli has resigned, how further is the situation going to deteriorate?
Thank you for inviting me for this show on Nepal. You know, the situation in Nepal is deteriorating very fast. I mean, in a matter of days, the situation has violent situation has spread from Kathmandu to at least a dozen towns and cities in the length and breadth of Nepal. And although it doesn't appear to be so sudden, there were indications, there were signals coming from different sections of the society. I mean, foremost was number one, the instability and the bickering, which people have become fed up in the government, central government, and the lack of direction of the government to resolve key issues like corruption, unemployment, inflation, and the all-pervasive relief measures for the victims of earthquake, which happened some time back. So all of this, and especially the youth, have been facing the brunt of this dire economic situation in the country, because many well-educated people don't find reasonable jobs and they are forced to go out to India, to Gulf and other countries. And when their only means of keeping themselves active was the social media, and in a very misguided move, the government banned social media platforms which are very popular, like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and many other social media sites, which kept the unemployed and disgruntled youths engaged. And I think this was a tragic, fatal mistake of the KP Sharma Oli government. And like in Bangladesh, police as usual resorted to violent methods, firing at innocent civilians, and killing large number of them, and hundreds being injured in capital and other parts of the country. So there is no apparent leader or party which is directing this mass uprising, mass protest, revolt against the government. But Nepal is not new to this kind of situation for the last couple of years since the monarchy was overthrown. The communists, the leftists, Marxists, and all sorts of people, even the pro-monarchists, they have been mobilizing people for and against their agenda. And this kind of uncertainty and almost incompetence of the government in handling sensitive issues involving youth and students, and allowing this kind of festering accumulated grievances of the people to explode in this kind of situation. Largely peaceful atmosphere prevailed, but this violent turn has shaken the confidence of not only the Nepali citizens, but we in India also are shaken. So there are
Yes,
two aspects. One is the domestic issue, which I briefly mentioned. There are many angles to it we can discuss. There is also undoubtedly the external factor. You mentioned in the first question conspiracy. You see, Nepal is a buffer between China and India, and the Nepalese have been paying a very heavy price for this struggle for power between these two Asian giants. It was assumed that Nepal, being a Hindu kingdom, would be pro-India, but after the monarchy was overthrown, there were many signals of their anti-India campaign, policies, border issue, claiming territories in our Indian border states, so on and so forth, that remained unresolved. Either the Indian government was not interested and they thought they can use influence and bring down anti-Indian governments there. But China also took advantage of this and slowly extended its influence at the cost of India. So it is not surprising that India is supporting certain groups which want either the restoration of the monarchy or to restrict the Chinese influenced parties. And more importantly, other than these two parties, the United States also is not a bystander. It has a strategic interest in Nepal bordering China, which it considers as its main enemy, given the lack of progress through Ukraine to disintegrate Russia. So they tried everything, including tariff, to contain China. Now, I think this is a new move after Bangladesh and the Hong Kong and Tibet and other
no, but
issues.
Pasha, when you hint at the
They want
conspiracy
to.
angle, now, is this a conspiracy which has been hatched by India, or like what many social media people are talking about, the fact that it could be an American conspiracy as well? Is Trump trying to foment this kind of a crisis for some kind of a vested interest? Now, what could be the conspiracy angle? Could India be meddling in the affairs of Nepal? Could Trump be meddling in the affairs of Nepal? And if at all they are doing it, what is the end goal for these two countries?
Yeah, the end goal is to restrict the other actors' influence to the minimum. India has been desperately trying to neutralize the anti-Indian groups for a long time, but it hasn't succeeded, to be fair. And the Chinese have, through various means, increased their influence at the national level. at the cost of India. So the Nepalis are caught in this terrible struggle for power and influence in Nepal, and I don't consider India as a bystander or onlooker. India is a deeply interested party, and it is well known that which parties India has been supporting directly or indirectly, and we also know Chinese support to certain parties. But what I think is a new angle is the US-China confrontation, and in order to perhaps please the United States, maybe India and the United States are working together to restrict Chinese influence in Nepal, although we don't have credible information. But there are speculatory articles and news reports suggesting that India is bending over backward to normalize relations with the United States, given its anger over India's rapprochement with China and Russia. So, the absence of Prime Minister at the Beijing military parade and various other measures and lack of presence of Modi
Right,
in the BRICS line
right.
summit, all this put together, there is this new angle emerging between America and India in Nepal to restrict or contain China. G.
All right. I'll come to Mohsin now. Mohsin, are these reports true that Mr. KP Sharma Oli might flee the country? There were visuals I saw of a military chopper which was waiting, and people said that he might fly to some adjoining areas from where he could leave the country. And probably the destination country which everyone is talking about is Dubai. Now, what is really happening on that front? Do you have credible information that he might flee the country?
Yes, this is what I'm hearing from my students, also former students in Nepal, that he's feigning ill health and that he'll go to Dubai for his health checkups or whatever. I hope he does. I hope he doesn't end up in India and we become like a retirement home for all former despots and corrupt officials. We already have Sheikh Hasina here in India, but she was in Delhi and now she's in UP. So, what is the situation? Well, I don't think there is a big conspiracy here. I think, if anybody has been watching Nepal closely for a few years, he would know that there is a lot of unemployment in Nepal, uh, despite huge remittances coming from abroad, because all Nepalis have to leave their country. The quality of job creation is very poor. That is, the money coming in from remittances has not resulted in industry or any other kind of development or even services in tech. And so, young people, Nepal also has a youth bulge like India, what is called the demographic dividend. And like us, it is being wasted there also. They don't have jobs. And so they have been protesting for a while. And if you see their social media, they keep putting up these posts of the children of politicians living lavish lifestyles and entering politics. And they ask, where is this money coming for their lifestyle? They call them Nepo babies and Nepo kids, nepotistic. This is a very common term in Nepal. So, and they are frustrated that since 2006, when the revolution ended and the Marxist revolution ended and the violence ended, the same set of people from 2006, 7, 8 have been in power till today. So that's a long time. It's almost 20 years, and same set of people, whether it is Prachanda of the communists or it is Deoba or it is Oli from the Congress, same set of people keep circulating. They all have corruption allegations against them. But what happens is in the cabinet, every time the cabinet sits, it has the power to grant immunity from investigation. So the cabinet, whichever cabinet comes, they support giving immunity to the past politicians. And this way seems to be what's called in Hindi a mili bhagat. That is, they're all involved in this. Was leading to rising frustrations, and therefore people were making these TikTok videos and this was trending on social media, this nepo babies and all that. And so government was trying to cut that down. It wanted the social media organizations like Twitter and X, sorry, and Facebook and all of that to register with the government, so that whenever the government flags a post, it should be taken down. These social media companies refused. And that's why the government got a court order and said that within 1 week you must comply or we'll shut you down. And the government shut them down. This was the last straw. And there was a Hami Nepal group. There's a group called Hami Nepal, and they decided to organize it, but it went way beyond Hami Nepal. School children, college, everybody turned up on the streets. Finally, violence, like it happened in Bangladesh, but much less than Bangladesh. Only 21 people have died, whereas in Bangladesh, as you know, hundreds and hundreds of people died. But this was enough for Nepal. Violence is broken out, and the same scenes that you have seen in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, people entering the houses of politicians, sometimes setting them on fire, etc. And the people don't want anybody from parliament because they perceive all of these politicians as corrupt and compromised. Even the younger leaders in these parties, because they did not speak up against their bosses, are perceived as compromised. So even those poor guys cannot get a chance. So what they want is the mayor of Kathmandu. He's this young man, 35-year-old structural engineer and former rapper who's perceived as clean, and people are projecting him to be the prime ministerial candidate. Let's see whether that goes through. The army chief has basically told Oli to resign, that the army can't stand by him. And I don't believe that the army is going to take over, because like in Bangladesh, the army knows that if we try to take over, the people will come out even in larger numbers in the streets, and there'll be even more violence. The army just